We continue to see troubling things happening all around the world. The U.S. is releasing funds to Iran amid nuclear tensions. 4-year-olds are being taught about sex in children's books in their schools. And the government is threatening parents in California to have their children removed from their homes for not agreeing with their children's gender confusion. Today, I'm discussing some disturbing articles that shed light on the moral disintegration of the world we're living in. I truly believe we're at the end of the end times. In the subscriber portion, I'm answering questions such as, is this the last pope? If you want to hear similar topics and be surrounded by like-minded believers, I want to invite you to Fellowship Church this weekend. We have our Tipping Point Prophecy Conference that's happening September 16th, this Saturday from 9 to 5:30. I'll be there. I'll be speaking twice that day. Rabbi Jonathan Kahn, Dr. Tony Evans, Ed Young, Dr. Mark Hitchcock, Billy Crone. We also have with us Rick Renner joining us that day for our Q&A panel. It's going to be a fantastic day. Rabbi Jonathan Kahn is going to be blowing the shofar. He's going to be speaking. Then he'll be blowing the shofar and leading us in a special service commemorating the Feast of Trumpets, which is this weekend during our prophecy conference. Love to see you there. Go to endtimes.com and you can sign up for the prophecy conference. We have reserved seating. I'll also be speaking at Fellowship Church this weekend. Fellowship Church is in Grapevine, Texas, just about 5 minutes north of the DFW airport. Wonderful church. They have campuses all over the Metroplex. But I'll be speaking Sunday morning on Bible prophecy. So I'm speaking twice, as well as all of our other speakers on Saturday. But then on Sunday morning, I'm speaking again on Bible prophecy. I'd love to have you be a part of that. Have a new book coming out this Saturday, the 16th. That's End Times Answers, 100 real questions from real people. And you can get this on Amazon.com. You can also get it on xomarriage.com. I'm glad you're joining me today. I'm Jimmy Evans. Welcome to the Tipping Point Show. This is from the Jerusalem Post. This is the IAEA, that's the International Atomic Energy Agency. The chief says Iran has expanded stock of near weapons grade uranium. Now what I'm about to read you here, this is really alarming and amazing for this to be happening. I've got several articles to read associated with this. It says IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi warned on Monday that there is a routinization process underway of Iran's many nuclear violations. At a press conference after he addressed the IAEA Board of Governors, he also cautioned that any future deal between the Islamic Republic and the West must take into account the massive nuclear progress by Tehran from IR-1 centrifuges to IR-2, IR-4 and IR-6 centrifuges, as well as from 3.67% enriched uranium to 60% enriched uranium in large quantities. While hoping for progress in negotiations with Iran and the West, he said he would continue to flag Iranian violations based solely on scientific basis. Earlier in the day, he told the IAEA Board of Governors that Iran has continued to increase its stock of 60% enriched uranium close to weapons grade, and that there has been no progress in getting Tehran to credibly explain the existence of illicit traces of uranium found at undeclared nuclear sites. These developments came as somewhat of a surprise given the clear progress that has been made between the West and Iran in recent weeks toward unfreezing about $10 billion in Iranian assets, releasing 5 U.S. citizens in Iranian prisons, and the noticeably reduced attacks by Iranian proxies against U.S. forces in the Middle East. The IAEA Director, General Rafael Grossi, regrets that there has been no progress in resolving the outstanding safeguards issued in the reporting period. One of the reports said, referring to Iran's failure to credibly explain the origin of uranium particles found at 2 undeclared sites. Well, this is troubling to say the least. They've made huge progress, and they're now enriching uranium at 60%, which all of this is a violation, and all of this is something that we didn't know about. They're shocked. They can't believe it. Well, this is another article here. This is, again, very troubling associated with this. This is from the Jerusalem Post. The headline, Israel will act against Iranian nuclear pursuit, uranium enrichment. This National Security Advisor, Saki Hanegbi, stated there would not be any choice but to act if Iran enriches uranium above 60%. Israel will act against Iran's enrichment of uranium at above 60% because that means it was admitting pursuit of nuclear weapons. National Security Advisor Saki Hanegbi told the World Summit on Counterterrorism in Herzliya Monday morning. If Iran enriches uranium at above 60% as an action that we would identify, and there is no chance that we would not, that the world and the International Atomic Energy Agency would not recognize it. The result is that Israel would have to act. There would not be any choice but to act, Hanigby stated. Passing over the 60% threshold would mean that we have reached the moment when Iran is clearly telling the world that it is going for a nuclear bomb, Hanigby explained. It would mean that this is now Iranian policy. Hanigby noted that recently Iran had hit the 83.7 mark on uranium enrichment, but had hastened to explain that this was a mistake. Such steps are never accidental, he added. So they're continuing to enrich uranium at higher and higher levels, getting to nuclear or weapons grade nuclear weapons. And so what they're saying, we've talked about this a lot in the last couple of years on here, because this has been going back and forth for a long time. But let me make two statements here, okay? And the first statement is, Iran won't stop. This is the Islamic Republic of Iran, and this is what we don't get. This is what our leadership right now, they just don't get. The Iranian people are wonderful people. They're Persian. They're not Arab, they're Persians, and they're just intelligent, warm, wonderful people. The problem is the government. The people in Iran do not like their government. They've revolted against their government many times. And so right now, what we see happening in Iran is they have a hardened position that they're going to destroy Israel. They have a missile. They have this hypersonic missile with Israel's name on it. I mean, they've engraved on there the destruction of Israel. And so they want to destroy the United States, and they want to destroy Israel. So two statements. One is they're not going to stop. Absolutely not going to stop. Number two is Israel will hit them. Israel's going to strike them. Israel is telling the world, if they begin enrichment beyond 60%, we have to stop it, and they will. When I had Bill Salas on the show a few weeks ago, and we were talking about the coming wars, the first war that Bill and I both believe is going to happen prophetically is Jeremiah 49, is the war in Elam, when there's a strike on Persia, on southern Iran. And so I believe this is imminent. I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but there's just a lot of rhetoric. And what's happening right now is troubling. Listen to this. We're talking about troubling. This is from the Associated Press. U.S. moves to advance prisoner swap deal with Iran and release $6 billion in frozen Iranian funds. This was as of yesterday, 9/11. Washington AP. The Biden administration has cleared the way for the release of 5 American citizens detained in Iran by issuing a blanket waiver for international banks to transfer $6 billion in frozen Iranian money from South Korea to Qatar without fear of U.S. sanctions. In addition, as a part of the deal, the administration has agreed to release 5 Iranian citizens held in the United States. Secretary of State Antony Blinken signed off on the sanctions waiver last week, a month after U.S. and Iranian officials said an agreement in principle was in place. Congress was not informed of the waiver decision until Monday, according to the notification, which was obtained by the Associated Press. The waiver drew criticism of President Joe Biden from Republicans and others who say the deal will boost the Iranian economy at a time when Iran poses a growing threat to U.S. troops and Mideast allies. On X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa said it's ridiculous for U.S. to be blackmailed into paying $6 billion for hostages, which will help indirectly finance the #1 foreign policy of Iran, terrorism. Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas accused Biden of paying ransom to the world's worst state sponsor of terrorism. Another Iran hawk, Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, said the waivers were a sign the administration was secretly pursuing a broader deal with Iran to include more than the release of the detainees. Today's news confirms there's already been a side deal, including a $6 billion ransom and the release of Iranian operatives, Cruz said in a statement. So we're now releasing $6 billion to the Iranians. We're releasing some of their prisoners. They're releasing some of our prisoners, and we're also releasing $6 billion. Well, as I've already stated here, they're not doing anything related to their nuclear program. They won't they agreed, I believe it was last March, to reconnect their cameras. They won't do that. They won't account for 2 sites that have traces of uranium. They have defied. They now are, announcing their progress. And the IAEA is shocked. They said, we can't believe they've made massive progress, and they're enriching uranium now is 60%. They're shocked. Well, they're defying the entire world related to their nuclear program, and they're going to get a nuclear weapon now. It's just a matter of time. And so the United States, in the meantime, we released $6 billion to to the nation in the world that wants to destroy us and Israel the most. They released $6 billion, and we released some prisoners, and they released our prisoners. Let me say this, when you give somebody $6 billion, you're only incentivizing them to take more prisoners. So in the future, what you can look for, as soon as the dust settles and they get their money and they cash their check, they're going to begin to arrest Americans over there for no reason, like they already have in the past. They'll begin to arrest Americans because what they understand now is that's their collateral. They're bargaining chips. And we're willing to pay. We're willing to deal with terrorists. We're willing to give terrorists $6 billion. That's what they are. The Iranian government, they're killing, they're attacking Israel through their proxies in the Middle East. They're attacking our soldiers and they're attacking Israel. And they're endangering American military people that are stationed there in Syria. And so here we are giving them $6 billion at this critical time. It's bad foreign policy, I can say that to say the least. But Iran, the whole situation with Iran, and they're masters. I mean, you got to give them credit. They are masters at negotiation, the Iranians are. They have played the world like a cheap fiddle, and here we are giving them $6 billion and their hostages. Why don't they pay for their hostages to be released? Jimmy has discussed Iran's nuclear power, but what about Russia's power? And this is from Hala. Just today, Putin threatened any nation that interfered with their attack on Ukraine. He said there would be repercussions like they have never seen. He was referring to the nuclear bomb. What is your opinion concerning this threat? How good is their nuclear program? And is there a chance he could use it on the USA or the US with China's help? What do you think about that, Mark?
Well, it's a real threat. They have more nuclear weapons than anybody in the world. Russia does. They have a lot more than we do. Now, again, how many do you need to blow up the world? But they have, their stockpile's massive. Would he do that? We don't know. Again, how far will Putin go? How crazy is he? And what is he? I don't think he's crazy in the sense of insane or something. But calculating, he's not going to be humiliated. Right. He's not going to be embarrassed. That happened in 1991. He's lived with that. He calls that the greatest geopolitical disaster of the 20th century. The worst day of his life, he said, was when he's clearing out his, papers in East Berlin and having to go back to Russia. I mean, it was humiliation. And so, when he was a KGB agent. So he doesn't want that to happen again. And I think he'll do whatever he has to do. And right now, too, he's going to get backed more and more into a corner. There's going to be trouble at home. Their economy is going to begin to collapse. And the worst kind of a bear, is a bear that's been robbed of her cubs and then that's cornered. Right. And once he's cornered like this, we don't know what he will do. And I think there's a lot of people who are asking that question. So, I don't know. We don't know how far he'll go. We don't know if this is a bluff that he's making. But I think in his own mind, he would be willing to do it to save face and to not have his country go down and be humiliated.
I agree with that. This is from Michelle. It says, I am confused about something. I have heard about the great military might of Russia, yet he seems to be struggling. Is this because he hasn't fully lent his true military and capabilities on Ukraine? It seems to me that Israel could squish him, hands down. What do you think about that?
Well, there's military operations are notoriously difficult. You've got all these long supply lines and all. I mean, if Vladimir Putin wants to go in there and take Ukraine, he can take it. If he doesn't care what he does, bomb every city, he could take it quickly. I think they're wanting to preserve infrastructure and a lot of those things. They're hoping the people there will just surrender and give up. The problem for Israel's tiny. I mean, Israel obviously has nuclear weapons and all that, but Israel is as far as Jews living in Israel, it's 6 million people. Right. Russia has 1/8 of the landmass in the world. I was reading that recently. That's fascinating. They have 1/8 of the world's landmass in Russia. Israel's the size of New Jersey. Yeah. So you're talking about just an overwhelming force, really. Now, Israel would have to use, in a war with someone like Russia, Israel would have to use nuclear weapons.
That's right.
To come out on top. They could defeat them in that way, but but Israel, one nuclear weapon in Israel and the country, the whole country's gone.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Whereas you hit Moscow or St. Petersburg, I mean, it's a huge, massive country.
This is Maggie. With Russia and China recently performing military drills together, North Korea having now missiles that can reach the U.S., and Iran in cahoots with them, could the U.S. be targeted for destruction? What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's what they all want. All of them want that, and I think a lot of them though are watching us kind of start collapsing from within.
Yeah,
You know, we're so focused on climate change that we're really sabotaging our own economy, with oil and gas. I mean, I think a lot of these countries are sitting and watching what's happening to our country and kind of allowing us to fall on our own sword. Well, I think there's probably a lot of that.
I heard someone say, and I really believe this is a very true observation, and that is we are so woke in our military. The present administration is so fixated, and that's just the truth, on making sure that the transgender is accepted into our military and all this kind of thing. And China is not woke. Russia is not woke. Iran is not woke. North Korea is not woke. They're not concerned about any of those politically correct issues. They're just building a military to destroy us. And so we are at such a disadvantage because of the weakness that we have shown the entire world. The withdrawal of Afghanistan, just on a tactical level, just showed how inept we have become. But this is something that's real troubling. Is that the United States of America, we have the largest war machine in the world, but it's not the war machine that matters, it's the people behind that machine. And so, we are seeing the decline, and people ask, why isn't America in Bible prophecy? Or if we are, why are we not very pronounced? Well, obviously we're not much of a factor at that point. Is that what you believe?
That's right. Yeah, I think we're going to be weak by that point. I mean, the words used woke, I'd say we're woke and weak.
Woke and weak.
Where we're getting. We're woke and weak. And my view is that the rapture will and probably in convergence with other things that are all these other things we see happening in our culture that are weakening us. Then you have the rapture on top of that, where all the salt and light's taken out. Let's say 8% of the people in America are really believers. That's 30 million people.
That's right.
That are extracted. I mean, you talk about a drop on the Dow Jones the next day, and our military being everything sucked out of our country. It's we would become a third-rate nation overnight.
Yeah, that's right. I want to thank you for watching this Tipping Point clip, and I want you to subscribe to the channel. I want you, if you're not a subscriber, go ahead and click subscribe there. And thank you for watching and subscribing. I want you to join our Tipping Point community at endtimes.com. For $7 a month, you can subscribe, and you have a 7-day free trial. So if you just want to check it out for 7 days, go on endtimes.com, check us out for 7 days, but I can promise you, you're going to love the content. You're going to be getting the Tipping Point show, the full show, every single week, as well as articles and video content from great teachers like